So what I've actually learned while I've been studying about petitioning and rights and the law and things like that, what I've learned is that in the mid 1800s, in the 1850s, they took all the jury out of the magistrates' courts, because you would have a jury straight away, at the first level. You wouldn't have to wait till you go to Crown Court, right? There would be a jury, but there'd also be a jury in civil cases, right? In civil cases. Now, the thing is that they used to have, remember, they didn't have the Crown Court has only been here since the 1970s, which isn't that long ago. They had the assizes, right? They had these assizes which were 4 times a year or something, and they had these quarter sessions which were 4 times a year. I think the assizes started out like about twice a year, but then it ended up being 4 times a year. So the higher courts, which were the judges from London, the King's judges doing the circuits, they were only so many times a year. But all other matters were decided in the local courts, right? Which you had, the equivalent of the magistrates' court. You just had the local courts, right? Now, the thing is, we did have councillors, aldermen, right? And sometimes you had a mayor, like a big town like London or Manchester or whatever, would have a mayor and aldermen, and the mayor would be a judge and make the decisions, right? Now, the thing is that you had a court called the Court of Civil Requests, right? So if you wanted to build something, if you wanted to, do something, you had to put it through the Court of Civil Requests, right? And then you had to get permission. It's like a case. You put in a case, basically, whether it's before the aldermen and the mayor, or that's what you're doing with a planning. You're putting a case. Now, the thing is, the government aren't meant to bring their own cases. It's meant to be applicants who build things and suggest things and do things. A lot of these civil requests, like can I build a house, or can I extend or expand my house, or, arguments over land or exchanging land and so forth, or even a company that would want to propose developing the town centre, who'd got an architect, and to get it approved, you would actually get a jury, which would be a random number of people chosen from the public, to decide, right? And they'd have to make the case for it. Now, the thing is, a lot of the functions of this Court of Civil Requests, they also dealt with petitions as well, because if you were petitioning Parliament to take a case to the Parliament of England, you had to get consent through the courts, right? Particularly if it was over 20 people signed, right? And actually, you could, anything in the local courts or local council, you could appeal that to Parliament. You can now. I actually did it. And it's meant to nullify, like if you appeal from a magistrate's court to a Crown Court, it annuls the order and you get to have it reheard, right? Or from the Crown Court to the High Court and so forth. The thing with the local council chamber is you're meant to be able to appeal it to Parliament. And I actually did. And Parliament won't publish it, because then you get an annulment of the order. When the council approves something to redevelop the town centre, you can appeal it to Parliament, right? And then it gets annulled, an annulment of it, while you're waiting for another decision from a higher place, which is Parliament. All this judicial review is tosh, because it's just judicial review is just a court that examines whether the council did everything properly. You're not actually appealing the decision. There is an appeal from local council to the Parliament of England, and they've just blagged us, they've bluffed us. I actually did appeal to the Parliament, and they're lying, basically. The Huddersfield Town Centre currently is illegal, because I actually submitted a case to appeal the decision to Parliament, and actually what they actually ended up doing is they ended up... they call a general election. All petitions end when you call a general election, right? So they transferred a lot of the powers from the Court of Civil Requests to the council to the aldermen and the mayor, which is it's the council, right? It's still a court though. It's a court for local matters of how it's being run and governed, but it's still a court. That's why you've got the chairman. You have the cabinet of the council. If you watch a channel called Colchester Council Watch, they go in and watch all the council sessions. The format of it's still a court, but it's just got a different format, a different formula. And what happens is your councillors do the voting in the same way as a jury vote. And people still go stand there and give evidence, and you can have petitions heard and oppose things. It's still a court. But the mayor now is just for ceremonial purposes. The thing is, once an order in the council is approved, they say that, you can't appeal it. That's it. It's done. And the only thing you can do is get these judicial reviews for planning and so forth, which just checks if it was done properly, if they followed the law, an applied process. It's not actually, you're not appealing the decision. They say that the decision itself can't be challenged, which is a lie. That's false, because the council is just a lower authority of the king and Parliament is a higher authority. And what the Petitions Committee in Parliament are doing, if you actually, what we've got a right to do is, if you've got a planning application number, even the planning number for the town centre redevelopment, right? Whatever the number is, the planning number for that town centre redevelopment, it doesn't matter whether it's a house that's being built or an extension that's been approved or a land usage change or anything like that. Even the mammoth of the town centre, it's just an order that they approved in the council. You can petition, you can appeal it to the Parliament of England, right? Now, the Petition Committee, if you write down the planning number, right, for what the town centre development is, in the title field, you say you want a resolution or an object. You want another. You want to appeal basically that planning order, and then you write down in the text in the body, in the field body of the subject, why you're objecting to it, and really. They've restricted and reduced how much you can write. I mean, most of you must have signed petitions before on the Parliament website, or you can even do it in writing. But you can appeal any local council. Look, the local council has got a mace in it. In the chamber, there's a mace, a golden mace. That's the authority of the king, right? But it's only the authority of the king at the local level. You can appeal to the authority of the king at the Parliament of England because it's a higher jurisdiction and authority, right? Everyone's got the right to petition either of the Houses of Parliament or the king over any matter. They used to have this act called the Tumultuous Petitioning Act 1661. It's Public Act 13, Charles I, and that was repealed in 1986. When the Crown Prosecution Service was invented around then. But you could actually go, what you would actually do is go to this Court of Civil Requests or even the local council chamber, and you would say, right, I want to appeal this to Parliament. And then you would get consent to appeal for Parliament. But now they're just lying and saying, there's no way to appeal a council decision. You can't do anything about it, which is tosh. The Labour Party and Conservatives have lied and perverted the course of justice so much now that, the current form of government in local government, they call it control of the council, but there is no control of the council because all the councillors sign up to not only impartiality, but they're not allowed to have, it's called selflessness. They've got to be apparently selflessness is a policy, an employment policy for the council. I've seen the form. If you go into that Colchester Council Watch website, it says that they've got to have selflessness, which means they're voting on behalf of their constituents or of their electors. A councillor is not meant to vote in the chamber for their own opinion or themselves. They're meant to be voting and acting on behalf of their ward or of the people who voted for them. And if you can't have yourself, you can't be voting on behalf of a party, really, because a party aren't the electors. A party is based somewhere else. Now, they might say, well, most of the electors support that party, but all of the electors don't support that party in every single decision. And remember, this is an important mental leap to understand. When you have a court, it can only be decided on the evidence and with applied law, right? Now, in the council chamber, when anything gets voted on or approved, it can only be voted on based on the evidence and with applied law. Now, you're usually challenging the applied law with a judicial review, but you aren't appealing the decision they vote on and make. You can appeal it to Parliament, to either of houses of Parliament. You can. And what they're doing is they're just lying. And all this, all of the current guidelines is not the actual underlying law and truth of legislation. All of the procedures and processes that they tell you is just their guidelines and writing that they've put there, how they want to sell it to you, right? But if you look at the underlying law and you understand the principles and basis of law, they're wrong. And this is how these political parties have taken over the entire country. And in fact, if you think about it, in every single council chamber session where there's got to be a vote, right, and when people have got a right to give evidence and speak and object and have a say, remember there's a slot for petitions, right? Now, that slot for petitions, right, I'm not lying now, I'll swear on Almighty God that this is the truth. If you think about it, right, anyone can submit a petition with a lot of people signing in any planning objection or objection to the town centre. But also, in that petition slot, you can raise the matter to Parliament or either houses of Parliament. But the thing with petitions is, in any legal case of any kind, whether it's civil or criminal or whatever, you can always appeal after the decision. It doesn't have to be during or before. And you can petition it to Parliament. And this is now where I am with it, because I've been acting on petitioning rights, immunities, privileges of Parliament, protection from prosecution, which is what a lot of these action groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil have meant to be using for their actions. But a lot of them don't know the law and haven't been able to prove it. But if you read Sir Thomas Erskine May, the usage of Parliament and other acts of law and so forth, we do get privileges of Parliament, where we've basically been completely, totally gypped and scammed by political parties and their objectives. And because they've got friends, partners, investors, all these other contractors like, Ross Highways and building contractors and favourite architects, and they just bring their pals in and their friends and colleagues, all these architects, upcoming architects, and they're just approving all these things because they like them. And you're meant to be selfless. They can't like or want anything. In fact, if you have a selfless policy, where do these ideas come from? Councillors have got a selfless policy, so I don't know how the council itself can come up with an idea for the town centre. I don't know how the council itself can come up with an idea for this or that, because they're just meant to be there, and then people make a case. Oh, we'd like to build a new house, or we'd like to change usage of land, or we'd like to redevelop the town centre. The architect has got to come up with a case and present. He's only making a case to the council. Now, if these councillors know the architect or know the business that he's working from, or it's a business that's owned by some of the other builders or housing developments that they've got nice handshakes within the back room with Darren Smith Builders or whatever it is, and they're getting awards from the council. It's completely, totally corrupt. What they've got is a racket, and they're charlatans. And this is where we are with Starmer now, with the whole framework of the British government, and how political parties have effectively become their own kind of group that's saying, oh, the country's going to be like this or the country's going to be like that, when really, particularly at a local level, it's meant to be, just people. If you happen to have enough money to be able to build something or propose a new town centre, then you can make a case for it. But a lot of these cases were decided by a jury, and okay, the councillors in a way replace the jury, but everyone can make a case. And the thing is, when you get a petition, or every single councillor who is present in the chamber who has a vote, their vote is compelled by their ward, the people who elected them. They can't have their own personal opinion. So if you get a petition which is a majority of each area of someone who's voting, then that's how it's going to be. And the thing is, it can't be the same for every case made to the council, because every case, it has to be based on the evidence. If you haven't seen the evidence, what the architect's put in or the developer's proposing, you can't have a predetermined opinion that all Labour councillors are going to vote one way on everything that goes on the table, because you haven't even seen the evidence yet. Until you've seen the evidence, how can anyone have an opinion whether they want to object or anything? Now, the problem is that it's impossible, and the councillors are turning up and voting, presuming that Labour's got control, because if they were a majority of every Labour councillor is going in there and acting as if every single person who elected them is going to have the same opinion on each application that goes to the council, when it's not, because they don't even know the evidence for it yet. The case hasn't even been made, right? It is like a court. It's meant to be like a court. And all this control of the council is totally illegal and corrupt. But, there are other things that we're on with at the moment, like the judicial oath. Tony Blair set all the judges against the judicial oath because he brought in all these sentencing guidelines, which is deals for justice, negotiated justice. If you confess or if you give evidence or this or that, we'll be more lenient with you. The judicial oath is that justice cannot be done for favour. It has to be based purely on the evidence and by applied law. You can't make a deal for justice or negotiate it or do favours in exchange for more lenient sentences. It's actually illegal. Tony Blair also put an illegal congestion charge in London, because the ancient liberties of London, there can be no tolls in London. Once you've paid your road tax, your main tenancy, because we're all tenants of the road, we all pay for maintenance, main tenancy for the road, a right to use the roads. There can't be any additional tolls or charges yet. They brought in the congestion charge, and then this ULEZ thing, which they're all fighting at the moment with Sadiq Khan, which is illegal. We managed to stop them doing that Stonehenge tunnel as well, which was going to cost 1.7 billion. They've massacred Huddersfield. The thing that upsets me about Huddersfield is that, I don't really want to patronise anyone, but, people who are just, only go away at weekends or whatever, they've got like a full-time job, working class people, unless you're fortunate enough to travel, don't get to see that much of the country, or only get to see other parts of the country at a weekend or a Saturday or Sunday. If you go to the Lake District or to the seaside or whatever, or to a gig. But then, if you go into the O2 Arena or something like that, you don't see that much of the other places. if you've been lucky enough to see other parts of the country, particularly down south, you'll find that people are very proud of their villages and towns, and particularly, older ones. I think Huddersfield, judging by that Huddersfield Then and Now group, there were some beautiful pubs like that Unicorn and loads of... Huddersfield did have a history, and I don't know what it is with the councillors in Huddersfield. It started happening once they took over from Wakefield more and more and give powers and established Kirklees Council in the early 70s. They've never liked it. I don't think they've ever been proud of it or liked it. They've always wanted to make something better. And then they've always got it, and then they've never been happy with it. And then they get bored of it, and then they're just doing it over and over and over again. It's just perpetual. And now it's almost like an art exhibition. What Huddersfield has become is an urban art exhibition where they get some artist in, and he comes in, and they're their best architect, and then he goes, right, let's paint the town pink. And then no sooner has he finished, then they're ready thinking of the next thing again, right? And then they'll get another artist in, and someone's always making money out of it. And they might think, oh yeah, we like that painting, we like that African building, we'll leave that and that. But they're constantly doing it. Down south, they've got some places like, and it's been like that since forever. And they're so proud of who they are and what it is, and they actually always thought that this is beautiful. Why would we want to change this? This is why you make new towns. That was meant to be the idea behind Leeds and Bradford. I mean, Wakefield is, there's still quite a lot of cobbled side streets in Wakefield and places. They've got that Guildhall, which is more than we've got here, but Wakefield is suffering as well. I mean, that the whole point of starting a new town is to start somewhere modern and new. They'll never be happy with Huddersfield because they've massacred it. They ripped all the teeth out, and then they wanted to put, new gold teeth in, which isn't the original tooth. They're not even real. It's a perpetual art exhibition, is Huddersfield, and it's a perpetual money spinner now. Like, this university or whatever, and the Kingsgate. It's all to extract money from us. Kingsgate is there to extract money, and it looks horrible. It looks like some kind of Norman fortress. The councillors have sold their souls to Satan, as far as I'm concerned. It'll never, ever be... we've got nothing to be proud of. I mean, it's Tate Modern. And, if it's a modern art exhibition, it's not... You haven't got any history, And the worst thing is we've got ancient sites, which is some kind of history, and we're losing the countryside of those. They massacred it way back. They massacred it, and the Labour Party got greedy, and there's been some ulterior. The whole thing with the Imperial Chemical Industries, there's a lot of royal meddling in it as well. The Imperial Chemical Industry is totally, okay, it brought jobs and so forth, but that's the thing. I mean, you bring the jobs in, but it's all chemicals and spoil, This is what a lot of the, the World War I, II, and III was over, because they wanted to industrialise, look at Cadbury's. You've got to look at Bourneville. It was a beautiful village, All Birmingham was all these separate villages, and what happened is you just had more and more and more and more and more, and it all just joined up and became one sprawling urban mass, Birmingham. And now they've just got this kind of old house building next to the Cadbury's chocolate factory, where you can go and see it, but it's not a beautiful village anymore. And that's what's going to happen to the surrounding area of Huddersfield. We're on the It's like, the M62, the highway to hell. We're on the edge of oblivion, really. I don't like what these councillors are doing. I would never consent to it, ever. And I don't think a random jury of people would ever have voted for any of this that they've done. And there can't be control of the council. We've got a right to appeal it to Parliament. And currently, they're illegally obstructing us and pretending that it doesn't exist. And the Parliament Petitions Committee won't publish it. And that's crime. That's a crime, because you've got a legal right to have it heard, to collect signatures on it from either houses of Parliament, and that's what we've got them on. And if you think that if you think that that's fantasy or like wishful thinking, we've just stopped a £1.7 billion tunnel, right, down on the A303 at Stonehenge. So, it's not that much of a major feat, but they've already started ripping the town centre to pieces. It's just massacre. We need to get these councillors under control, and when you try and help in the local groups, people just end up arguing, and, all these, permission to post, permission to speak, it's all kind of like this blockchain thing where we're meant to have the Public Meeting Act, the Public Meeting Act is meant to give you the right to give evidence and your opinion and participate without being removed or anything. And that's not even been upheld online. And none of the main parties care about that, because that actually facilitates independent and persons rather than this political party control. It's too late now for these political parties it's inevitable that something's going to happen, because even to do with the food, the diet, all these other horrible things that have been happening to us, and the only thing is the damage in between. All this is going to stop soon. There's going to be something happen, because there's too many people now found out about the law and the truth and the fact. So all the councillors are doing now is playing with mud. What they're doing is they've got shovels and they're just slopping around in the playset. They're just tinkering with it, and they're just massacre. It's just more and more massacre. They're never ever going to be happy with this, because so many people didn't support it and didn't want it, that when a different party gets voted in, it's just going to resent what's been done and then try to correct it. And then you're going to have endless tinkering with it. And so they're just building it it's just a fad. It's literally a want list, You get a lot of councillors in, I want this, and then they want their want list, and then another one's coming and no one never wanted that. And then what you're going to end up with is a mess, which is what Huddersfield is. You don't get this in other places. People are proud. I mean, look at Leek, just over the tops, over Buxton Way. They camped out in the middle of the road to try and stop the council taking their roundabout out, which was the character of the town centre. They camped on it. It's not what the people want. And the whole time they've been abusing the advertising process. They've been using this blueprint of Huddersfield thing to try sell it to us when you're not allowed to influence the electors. But they've been trying to make it like everyone wants it. That it's something that everyone wants. Using advertising, which that was illegal as well. Tony Blair, there's over 1.1 million signatures in a petition to have his knighthood removed, and he's broken the constitution multiple times. These councillors are going to face justice, sooner or later, and all the only factor now is, what damage are we going to suffer in between. Because they're pulling down old schoolhouses, really beautiful buildings we've got here, and building all these really horrible antisocial security state housing builds, which are just ridiculous. When they could have converted all these buildings, reused them as they are. They're building some kind of security state thing, and that's what the front of the Kingsgate Centre's like, some sort of fortress or something. I don't think if you want to live somewhere that looks like some kind of Norman fortress, then move to Lancaster or somewhere like that, or even to the city. Why massacre a place that's got beautiful landscape and countryside around it? We're going to stop these councillors eventually, or we're going to die trying. They've got fads, and we need to stop them because they're meant to be selfless. There can't be any plan of the town centre. There can't be any project from the councillors because they're selfless. And any architect or company or business that goes into the council table with brand new evidence for a proposal, we've got the right to object to it. And not only object to it, if we're not happy with the decision, we've got the right to appeal to Parliament. And that's where we're being lied to at the moment. And I intend to prove that we've got that right. And I intend to prove that the town centre has been unlawfully built and pushed on us. And they've just massacred his history, Where does that leave us? What's left? Well, this is the thing, We've got the surrounding area, that's what we have got. We need a new form of government, I don't think that councillors should vote on any building projects for any town centres or planning. It should be a random jury selected to vote on every different planning project approval. All the decisions in the council should be decided by randomly selected juries from the local people, because otherwise you've got this political party corporate agenda and money and profits by companies. And you might say, strategic planning. Well, how can you? This is the thing. If you've got a selflessness policy, how can you have a strategy? How can you have a strategic planning? Because that means that you would have to be planning something with your own plan or opinion. Whose plan is it? Whose actually plan is it? The only strategic planning that I've seen is to keep changing the art gallery at large. It's almost like some kind of exhibition that has to be changed every 5-10 years or whatever. It's like an ongoing exhibition where none of the paintings are hardly originals anymore. If you want to go see Tate Modern, then go to London. This is the thing.